Hello everybody, welcome to Sane Game Studios. I am Sane, I'm an amateur game developer. Today on GameMaker Tutorials, I'm going to be looking at another method of 2D lighting. So this method that I'm going to be looking at today is just hole punching, where we're going to draw a black surface on top of the game that's going to cover the entire game, and then we are going to punch holes in it, and that is going to create the effect of lighting. This effect is not going to do anything fancy like shadow casting. If that is something you are interested in, I did a video on that last week. Link to it's in the description down below. In that video, I used an extension called Bulb by Juju Adams, and I set it up and showed you guys how to get going with it. In this video, we're going to be doing something a little bit more simple, a little bit more basic, no extensions needed. You're going to be able to code it yourself, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it pretty much right now. I'm just going to quickly show you what I have going on for a starter project. So in my sprites, I have 3 sprites. I have my player and my tile set. In my tile sets, I have my tile set. This is the only sprite really worth showing you guys, where it is the sprite that we're going to use to create the light effect. I only have the one room, and in that room I just have the player and a viewport and a tile set that is being used just to reference to show that the player is moving. Because if you don't have a point of visual reference, there is no way to really tell whether or not the player is actually going anywhere. I have set my room to be 3000 by 2000. I have enabled viewports. I have enabled viewport 0, and I have set its camera properties, and I have told it to follow the player. I just did it here for follow the player, which is a really unelegant way to do it. If you want a better method of following the player, I also have a video for that on my channel. You can go ahead and look for it. I think it's called Camera Controls. I only have the one object, and it is OPlayer, and it is rather simple. In my create event, I am just declaring the variables for getting player input, and then declaring the variables that I need to calculate movement. Then in the step event, I am simply getting the player input, I'm calculating the direction in which I should be moving, calculating whether or not I should be moving, and if I should, I'm calculating how far I should be moving in what direction, and then finally I am committing to the movement. If you don't understand what is going on here, I also have a video on top-down movement. You can find that in my channel. But now that I've shown you what we have going on for a starter project, we can go ahead and dive into this, and I can start showing you guys how to implement the lighting system. So to start off, we're just going to go to Objects, I'm going to go to Create, I'm going to go Object, and I'm going to call this object OGame. And before I do anything with it, I'm actually just going to go ahead and put it in the room so I don't forget to do that. And then I'm going to go to my instance creation order, and I'm going to make sure it is created first. I don't think this is necessary, it is just something that I like to do. And with that, I'm going to go to the create event. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the application surface. We want to be able to draw multiple surfaces. And if you don't understand how surfaces work, that is fine. You don't really need to understand how they work. I'm just going to show you how to do this with them. But we need to be able to control the order in which surfaces are drawn. And the application surface is the surface that the game itself is being drawn onto. And we want that to be drawn first. And then our lighting surface that we are going to create is going to be drawn second. So what we need to do in order to control the order in which they are drawn is we need to draw them ourselves. And the application surface will always be drawn by default unless you tell it not to. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is I'm going to tell it not to. So I'm just going to go application surface draw enable, and I'm going to set that to false. Next, I'm going to grab my camera ID. So I'm going to say cam equals view get camera viewport 0. Then I'm going to say cam W, which is cam width. I'm going to set this to the window width. So I'm going to go window get width. And then I'm going to do the same thing for cam height. And then finally, I'm going to create a surface. So I'm going to assign it a variable. So I'm going to say light surface equals surface create. And to start off, I'm just going to set it to 100 by 100. That way I can show you the surface being drawn before we get too far into this. And that is all we're going to need to do in the create event. So with that, I'm actually going to go to add/open event. I'm going to go to the draw event, and I'm going to go down to the post draw event. So to explain draw events happen a lot like step events, where you have like the begin step event where you can make sure that this code gets ran before all the other code in like the regular step event, and you have the end step event where you have this code gets ran after the step event but before the next frame, and then there's also just the draw event where it's just like the step event. So we're going to go post draw, which is going to be after the draw event has completely finished, but before the next frame starts. And all I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be drawing the surfaces. So before I do this, I'm going to quickly run the game and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when I don't have the application surface being drawn. So if I press F5, you're just going to get a black screen. Nothing. The game is not being drawn to the window. Everything is happening, all the code is running, but it's not being drawn, so we have no visuals. So if I go draw surface, ID is application surface. I'm going to draw that at 0, 0. Then if I run it now, the game will be drawing like normal. See, here's our game. Fancy, right? The next thing I'm going to do is after I draw this surface, I'm going to make sure that the light surface exists. So I'm going to say if surface exists, light surface, draw surface, light surface, 0, 0. And if I run this now, you're going to see a 100 pixel by 100 pixel square in the top left corner of the screen. Sorry, I need to make it. So I'm going to go to the draw end event. So this is going to happen after everything has been drawn, but before we actually draw all the surfaces. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if the surface doesn't exist. So if surface exists, light surface. And if it doesn't exist, I'm going to reset these variables. That's going to come in later. And then I'm going to create the surface. Again, 100 by 100. Then I'm going to target that surface. So everything that I am drawing with code here, I'm going to be drawing it to the light surface and not the application surface. So I'm going to go surface set target, light surface. And then I'm going to go draw clear. And then I'm going to reset the surface target. So what I'm doing is I am targeting the light surface, and draw clear is just going to fill it with black. And then after I have filled it with black, I'm going to reset the target so that in the next frame it starts off by targeting the application surface again. And if I run this, you will see a black square in the top corner of the game. Perfect. Got black square up there. and it follows us around. But I don't want it to just be a small square, so I'm actually going to create it to be our CamW and CamH variables. And then if I run it now, it is going to completely fill the screen. Can't see anything, it's black. Because we are covering the actual game with a secondary surface that we are just drawing as black. So now we want to use the sprite to punch holes in that surface so that it looks like a lighting effect. And it's really simple to do that, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go camera, apply, cam. And if you don't do this, the hole punch is not going to line up with where you were telling it to punch the hole. I can show you what happens after. But essentially all I'm going to do is I'm going to change the GPU blend mode, which, trust me, sounds complicated, but the way we're doing it here is very simple. I am then going to draw a sprite, and then I'm going to reset the GPU blend mode immediately after. I'll show you. GPU set blend mode. And I'm going to change it to BM, stands for blend mode, subtract. And then draw sprite extended. I'm going with the extended version because if you look at my S-Light sprite, it is 64 by 64. It is rather small, so I want to make it much larger than it actually is. So I'm going to go S-Light, subimage 0, X, I'm going to set it to oplayer.x, Y, I'm going to set it to oplayer.y. X scale, I'm going to set that to 4, Y scale to 4, rotation to 0, color to white, so C underscore white, and then alpha to 1. And then after, I'm going to reset the blend mode. And set that to BM normal, which is exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like we are just setting it back to its normal setting, which is exactly what we're doing. And now if I run this, I'm going to be punching a hole in that surface at the location of the player. Then as you can see, it is cutting the circle out of the screen. So we can see through it, and it looks like I am creating a light source. But what if you don't actually want the dark area, the shadow area, to be pitch black? What if you want to be able to see through it a decent amount? All that I'm going to do in order to apply that effect is I am going to change the alpha of the surface so that the surface itself is a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to go back to the post draw event, and I'm going to say draw set alpha, and I'm going to set this to 0.8. And then after I am done, to make sure that the alpha isn't different going forward, I'm going to reset the alpha to 1. And then if we run that, it's a little bit more transparent. If you want to have the light be pulsing, you very simply just in the X and Y scale of the draw sprite function, you would just initiate a variable instead of just hard coding in numbers like I did, and then you would fluctuate that variable every frame, and it would create whatever kind of effect that you wish for it to create. There are also better sprites that allow for smoother or different shaped or harder or softer hole punching to make it look more natural or more forced, depending on the type of art style you're going with your game. But that is the basics of how to do it. And actually, just real quick here, I'll show you what happens if you don't camera apply. See? It just gets wonky with the player position. So you always want to apply your camera. But that is a very simple way to do a quick hole punch effect for lighting. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you have any questions or you're having any issues with this, please put it down in the comments down below. I will gladly do my best to try to help you. When I was first learning how to do this, I got a lot of my information from DragoniteSpam, so I will also be putting a link to that video down below. He gets a little bit more in depth into how this all works and into how to implement this. But like I said, that's all I got for you guys, so I'm just going to wrap this up by saying please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys are having a good one, and peace out.